One of the difficult things about beginning to teach yoga, flow yoga, is figuring out how to teach the class without demonstrating. Some people are really naturally inclined to being able to just get off their mat straight away, walk around the room, cue the postures, and they don't need to demonstrate. And other people feel like they have to be doing the sequence for their brain to find the words. We're not all wired the same. And I know for myself, coming from a movement background, it always felt better for me to be doing the movement to find the words, and it was very difficult to start to build the skills of just cueing. But it's really important that we're able to do both, because if you are just demonstrating 100% of your class, your vinyasa flow class, you might not necessarily be present to what's happening in the room. You might really exhaust yourself. You might be just facing in one direction. Say the room was looking at you this direction and you had your mat lined up like this and you were facing this way the whole class. There's going to be a bit of a disconnect. Also, more importantly, wherever you're facing is going to be where your voice projects to. And sometimes in our yoga postures, we're pretty crammed up in our own body. So if you think about it, there are definitely postures where if you do them fully as a teacher, demonstrating 100% of your effort in the class, there's going to be times where your voice gets muffled by doing that. So for those of you that find it really difficult to rewire your brain to be able to keep teaching without demonstrating, these are my two postures that I recommend you begin not demonstrating to start to get the ball rolling. I'm going to come up to standing. The first, let's say you're at the very beginning of your flow class, everyone's come to standing, maybe you've done a little bit of a floor warm up first. No problem at all if you want to have your mat this way, so you'd get a lot more action forward and back. But when everybody's come up and they're standing in Tadasana, it's really nice if you can face the group. Eyes might be closed, which is great if you're feeling a little bit nervous. This is probably just before you're going to start moving into your sun salutations. So when everybody starts to move together, you can move with them. So you might begin by inhaling and taking the arms up. And then as you start to forward fold, their eyes are going to be looking at you at this point. And then as you get a little bit beyond that and start to fold down, they're all going to be looking down at their shins. You can just roll back up to standing. If you stay down in Uttanasana and you're talking from here into your own legs, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to hear you. That probably didn't sound great into the microphone. So at that point, when they fold forward, roll back up. They're not really going to be doing much else besides their Uttanasana in that moment, and it gives you a chance to just take a look around the room. And by looking, there might be some interesting cue that you feel inspired to give because of what you can see. Really important. Usually after we've done our Uttanasana, not long after that, we might do a forward lift. We're probably going to be stepping back into a lunge or stepping back into our downward facing dog, which is my second posture that I recommend for you to stop demonstrating or to partially demonstrate. If you think about downward facing dog as a posture, if I come into downward facing dog, I'm looking back between my feet. So if I'm talking while I'm doing it, that's where my voice is going to go. If everybody in the room that was facing me this way stepped back into downward facing dog, they're all going to be looking back through their feet to that wall. If I also step back into downward facing dog, my voice is going to go that way. So you've got a complete disconnect in the room. Now you might step back initially into downward facing dog, but here's what I recommend you do. As you begin to step back, just lower your knees to the floor and roll up to a low kneeling position. And then same thing with your Uttanasana. This is going to give you a chance to keep projecting your voice to where it really needs to be going. You're going to save yourself the effort that's required to talk while you're upside down, which is a lot if you start doing three-legged dogs and all sorts of other things when you're upside down. And you get a chance to just see what's going on with hands, maybe some people are already dropping down to child's pose, so you might get a sense, okay, people in the room today are a little bit tired, or people in the room today have got varying energy levels. That's something for me to be aware of. Now, when people are starting to shift from their downward facing dog into their lunge or whatever it is that you've got planned after that, there's nothing wrong from this kneeling position for you to come onto all fours and step back into your downward facing dog, just so that you can pick up where you're guiding the rest of the room. So that's my recommendation of 2 postures that you can begin to take your body out of the equation for. This is going to give you a chance to connect with the room, see what's going on, and conserve your energy.